not too close, but not too far, just right, engaging and relating. I'm Rick from Thriving Now. This is a real skills workshop. And Kathy and I are excited to do this because we believe that there are certain concepts that when they become part of our approach to
Awareness,
engage, or
consciousness.
exactly, that just having it changes our sense of freedom. And this is one of them. I've called it right distance, right depth. Today we're going to be talking about not too close, not too far. So, Kathy, what does that mean to you? Not too close, not too far.
Um, to me, it means being in the moment, being present with my needs, the ecosystem, the other person, kind of a dance. I used to think that if I would get close enough to someone, we would have this, like, we would be close and we would be this close all the time. And any deviation was a sign things were failing. Like, it was, we were close, this is it. And that is very suffocating and not very alive. And I think that all of us inhale and exhale. Rick and I, there's some days where I feel a little grumpy with him, Rachel's a little grumpy with me. We're really close, but we can still feel a little shift in and out. There's days where, like, just like before this call started, we were having a great conversation. We were really engaged. We almost were late for the call. I feel very, very close to him and warm. And there's other days where he might be really tired or I might be really tired, and there's just not that. So to me, it's like kind of like we're doing this dance and we're staying pretty deep. We're very well connected, but there's not a rigidity. And there's other people in my life where I'm like, there might be a lot more sway. Oh, I feel close to you today, not so close tomorrow. I haven't talked to you in 5 years. Let's talk, let's have lunch and have a great time. I think being really mindful and aware and present with what fits for you, and then setting intentions and creating that, or inviting that, or asking for that, or looking for people that fit that can help us create. I think more and more I'm realizing part of survival and thriving is managing our ecosystem and creating what we most need to have. I used to think friends would just come in and they were there or they weren't, versus, hmm, I can call people up, I can invite them, I can test drive different people to see if I want to go a little deeper with them. So, kind of a long-winded explanation, but that's to me is like being in this dance with people that where it feels aligned for myself, for the other person, and in alignment with the ecosystem we're in.
Mhm. Yeah, and there are different types of dances. There are some dances where you never let go of your partner,
Mhm.
ever. And I do types of dances where you're not actually even paired off. You're in your dance, you're in the community dance, you're in connection with one, two, 10 other people, and it's a dynamic flow.
Mhm.
Um, Back when I was younger, I would say I had attachment issues that were trauma induced and other things, but I had some real in that sense of something is off here.
Mhm.
And I had a binary view. You're either a friend, like I have friendship I have with you, or you're not. And that eliminates just about everybody. um, because, in my life, there have been vanishingly few and precious people like Kathy. Um, But this notion of right distance, right depth, as you heal and as you move into a place where you want to be thriving, as Kathy said, you're cultivating your own ecosystem. What does that mean? Well, if I have a stream in my ecosystem, I might like looking at it from a distance. I might like going and walking along it. I might like to put my feet in it. I may want to strip naked and jump in and woo, splash, 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 even if it's December. I've done that around here with streams. And people can be the same. And sometimes, even in really deep partnerships, this notion that we are either deep and close or we're not doesn't actually fit the energetics. It doesn't, to me, fit the emotional world. Um, there are times, we are very much cyclical people, and I'm noticing that there's my power was not plugged in. Um, we're cyclical people, and so this not too close, not too far is an invitation to be in the noticing, in the dynamism. And we're going to cover some ways that we do that to keep ourselves balanced, to keep the love alive, to keep the desires, but also to avoid harm and to recognize times when um, the relationship has changed, that the intentions have changed, the closeness has changed, and that that's okay. I believe that that happens naturally as like children become adults and adults become their own parents if they do, or they move away or they move close. Um, so, um, Kathy, did you want to start us off with, the one of the first aspects of this?
So I would love to. And I just want to say that if you're looking at this, most people just take this for granted. Like it's a fish in water. They don't consider the right depth, or they just think it is what it is. And I would just remind you that if you're looking at this, you're giving yourself new power. You're giving yourself new awarenesses and new possibilities.
Mm,
As you like identify, if you consciously are become aware, wow, I really feel fulfilled with this person. I'm enjoying them. I think I'd even like to deepen this relationship. Now you have awareness and words that you can go to that person and say, hey, I noticed we get together once a month, we're having coffee or whatever, and I feel so good afterwards. I would really like to spend a little more time with you. Can we talk about something we might want to do together? Is there some class you've wanted to take forever that you'd like to take with me? Or is there something you might want to create with me? Just invitation to create that, to bring more of something that's working for you in. And once we start being more aware as well, we can start letting go of the first thing that people often are bringing to these relationships is pretense. We're pretending the relationship is working. We're pretending we're liking this person, pretending it's working for us because we're getting a little nutrients. We are social beings. We do want connection. And maybe we're getting enough connection out of that relationship to give us some amount of the nutrient we need. We're getting a little vitamin C, a little bit connection, but we're not really getting a lot. And I think that when we can be more objectively aware of what the relationship is bringing to us versus pretending it's working, pretending we're happy, pretending we're things are good, we start making a lot better decisions. And I think it's challenging for us because so many of us are brought up, we got to be friends with people mom and dad said we got to be friends with, or whoever teacher paired us up with in school.
yeah,
We had to make do.
we had to make do. Tap, tap, tap.
Let's just, even though I had to make do,
Even though I had to make do.
and that didn't always fit my needs,
And that definitely didn't always fit my needs,
but I learned to pretend.
but I learned to pretend.
It's considered socially nice to pretend,
It's considered socially nice to pretend,
but I've been pretending to me too.
but I've been pretending to me too.
And I'm ready to start seeing this more clearly.
And I'm ready to start seeing this more clearly.
I did make do with a lot of people.
I did make do with a lot of people.
I didn't ask for what I wanted.
I didn't ask for what I wanted.
I pretended to like what they liked.
I pretended to like what they liked.
I pretended to like them when I didn't like them.
I even pretended occasionally to like them when I didn't like them.
And under the nose, I'd really like to see things more clearly.
That one hit I'm getting a hot flash. Excuse me. Whoa.
That's good of a chip plate. I'm ready to see this more clearly.
I'm ready to see this more clearly.
Collarbone. I can still be socially polite when it's right.
I can be socially polite when it's right.
Under the arm, but I don't have to pretend to myself anymore.
but I don't have to pretend to myself anymore.
Top of that. And with the right people, I can start being more honest about what I want and need.
And with the right people, I can be more honest, I think, with what I want and need.
Let's take a breath. I do think it is possible. I've had some friends where, as I got more clear on what I wanted, I just said, "Hey, I noticed that we're almost always doing everything you want. I'd like to change a few things." And the relationship became so much better, more fulfilling. Um, it really fit for me. And there were other relationships where as I started getting more real, they just were like, this is not gonna work because we were barely the connection was so limited anyway, and only the pretense was keeping it together. And as soon as I started saying, I don't like those kind of movies, I'd really like to go see a different kind of movie or do something different, there was just it broke. Let's see if I can fix my color temp. So okay, you want to share what you were experiencing? You had
Yeah.
a big epiphany.
Well, we do tapping. And if that was new to you and you've never seen it before, thrivingnow.com/tapping is a place that you can get the guide, but you can listen and tap along with us. It's an emotional technology. And for me, when I'm looking at something that matters to me so much, like connection and engaging in a way that supports my thriving and others, um, what Kathy just did with us is to look at the things that kind of mess up our energy. Um, I wouldn't I wouldn't have really landed on pretending, but that's something that she brought to us, and that's why we come together in a workshop. Is that I don't pretend. I've always been viewed by others as like unable to pretend. Like wait, if I don't like someone, I've been told I don't hide it well, and yet, you know what? I probably can or have, and a couple of people came to mind that wow. And so that's when I got a flood of energy. And having done that, I feel more connected to myself. Uh, we're, we use tapping to quiet the noise with respect. Like, oh, that pretending, that's noisy. If I have to pretend, there's a part of me that the right distance is really far away. So I can't even think about like it. That's the kind of thing that if it's like I'm done with pretending. If that's true for you, but you're noticing that you're not really also being attracted to people that you wouldn't have to pretend. Um, that can be like that. I'm so done with pretend that's so loud that it's actually acting as a limit. And so that's where looking at the evidence, like I want to be close, but I'm not actually moving closer to anyone. Um, tapping can help clear that. Looking at the reality with acknowledgement. It's uncomfortable to be aware of when we pretended. It's uncomfortable to to feel in our body like, I needed more distance and I didn't take it. And my body still is trying to remind me, um, yeah, you actually didn't sign on for that kind of emotional um, chaos, fire, vomit, or other challenges. And if you stayed looking at the reality and the evidence, um, can help you be here now. Like, okay, that was then. I'm feeling like my body's extracting the wisdom. I've got this model of, hey, right distance, right depth. That was definitely like too close. And this might be really useful for us in this workshop is to think, what was a situation where maybe it was, oh yeah, this is great, this is the right closeness, and then all of a sudden it changes, or over a period of time, you can feel your body going, hey, taking a step away would be good.
Mhm.
Um, and it can be a person, it can also be a situation. Some people, like if their work is becoming that, um, they'll like try to get closer, go deeper, go more intense. Like I'll throw more of myself into it. This is an opportunity to give yourself permission to step back a half a step, a full step, 3 paces, and like, oh, do you notice that half a step, full step, 3 paces, like just moving my hands that different, I feel different from the situation. You can use like, okay, we're like this. Ah, okay. This can also be a situation around other people, like a dynamic that you feel like you're maybe a little too close to. And like, what if I like lean back? That old,
Yeah.
oh,
Can we do a quick alignment for
yes.
people? I think a lot of times we get signals from our bodies that are telling us when we're too close, but we've learned to ignore them because when we were little, we didn't have a choice. We had to kiss Uncle Bob and sit in Sue's lap or like whatever it was. We had to do things that we didn't want to do, and we learned to adapt. But our body does know what's right for us. We have feelings. So if you would just take a nice gentle breath. And imagine someone that was just a little bit too much in your space. Think of someone in your life they're either a little too close or a little too emotionally close. They're like, you just notice in your mind, oh, I really wanted to get away from them a little bit. Maybe you wanted to run away completely or just a little bit. And notice the sensations in your body. Is it like, is your breath short? Is your muscles tight? Is there like a wanting to pull away or protect yourself? Just notice that because there's an honesty in that. We can think things through in our brain and create all kinds of stories, but our body, that kind of pulling away or whatever it is that we want to, that you might feel when you think of someone too close, that's a signal, hey, that there's something off here and I need to get in my head and look at this and I need to be with my body and notice what it's asking for. All right. And now just take a nice deep breath and maybe shake that off if that feels right. Now notice someone that maybe stayed a little bit further from you than you wanted. Maybe you wanted
Mm.
to get a little emotionally close or you wanted to hug them. Notice like maybe there's a longing in your heart. Notice how your body feels. Again, our brain can make up all kinds of stories. They didn't do this. I wasn't enough, whatever. We're trying to get past that to the actual sensations. Is there an ache in your heart? Like a leaning forward, like your hands wanting to reach out. What is going on in your body around this? Just notice that for a minute and breathe. There's nothing wrong. It's just we're looking for signals from our body system, which is very wise, to let us know what it is we want. Just take a gentle breath and shake that off. And now imagine or remember some time when someone was the right distance from you. Like you wanted to be close and they were close, or you wanted to be a little further apart and they were attuned to what you needed or aligned with it. And just notice how your body feels when you're with someone that's really kind of being in the flow with you. You might feel relaxed. You might notice your shoulders going down and your muscles relaxing, or you just have a sense of peace or whatever. Just notice the actual sensations in your body. And the idea is we want to find more people that let us feel this way. And we want to set better boundaries, set situations so we can find this feeling of most of the time this person honors my space, is attuned with my space, and I'm able to get what I need from the relationship.
Mm.
Just take a nice breath and thank you for going on that journey with us if you did. Again, you always want to get into the actual body sensations because there's a truth to that, a truth in that gets us past the pretense that we might bring. Our brain has been trained to say, oh, of course I like this person. We've been friends since third grade. You may not have wanted to be friends since third grade, but our brain will justify it. It's cost sunk analysis where we put all these decades in there, so we must want to be friends still. versus I don't actually like this person, or I don't want to be close in this direction. We want to be closer in another direction. I'm glad that helped.
One of the interesting things for me is that sense of rightness is it, even with relationships that we value, there can be that, oh, a little too close, a
Mhm.
little too far. Um, and having this as part of the relationship dynamic in a conscious way, I will say that the conversations that I've had with my partner Jim around right distance, right depth have been so helpful because um, being a mom, she's sometimes touched out, right? Like she's been touched
Pull back.
constantly. And, you know, um, it allows it allows me to relax into right closeness for her is like looking at me fondly from 30 feet away, knowing that I'm picking up on the fact that she's all touched out and it's it, it's not quite namaste away, but it's a recognition that closeness. If I'm feeling like right closeness is physical touch, I I can be aware of that. And what's interesting is that as you practice this, as we practice this, what I will notice is, okay, I I am noticing that I want physical closeness. And as I feel into this person I'd like to be physically close to, what I might feel is an energetic closeness, but not the actual physical drawing toward asking for it. Um, if I'm in primitive brain that's different, I might ask for a hug and just get a yes or a no. Because I'm not in my body enough to be able to get clear. But there's this whole realm of savvy relating, which is what this workshop is about, which gives us so much information to navigate with with savvy the people around us. It's let's say there's something that you want to share and it's really vulnerable. You may like, oh, I love that this person is the type of person I'm drawn. This is actually specifically the person I want to share this with. And I notice that my throat, I'm not afraid, like I'm not scared. I'm not um I might have vulnerability stuff rising, but I may not get the yes from my body. So part of this is the right distance, as in let's not get burned, let's not harm ourselves or others. Then there's also the beauty of like what's the right timing. It is now the time to open that door to closeness. Um, and one of the things I've noticed is if I allow that, like, oh, I feel that putting the words out might actually not, it's not the right time for that. It might, that the person may want to move away to process it because they don't have a lot of resource to like.
Mhm.
Um, this is fun. And it's especially with people that are anywhere remotely on the same wavelength around emotional freedom, being able to say, hey, the not too close, not too far for me is sort of a changing thing. Like sometimes I love hugs, sometimes I don't, or I always love hugs, but I navigate a world where some people don't, and I'd love to figure out how to signal each other and share with each other around those things. Um, this layer of savvy relating is where the kind of the thriving love connections, the thriving co-creating can happen. Um, and often it starts with some relationships where being with the evidence of where things are right now. Um, I want to be closer, and I'm not feeling any openness. That's uncomfortable, makes me want to cry a little bit. We were once so close as two people have ever been. And, we, he went east, I went west. we're not, we're, we're diverging in our, uh, in our intentions, in what matters to us and the like, and the way that we want to be nourished. Um, I
Well,
want more freedom. They want more obligation, those types of things. And that's going to be uncomfortable and like sometimes a heart wrenching, sickening sort of discomfort too.
and I also think the more we honor it, the more we find people that are aligned with us. That I don't like obligation. I like to find people that will be very clear. Like I'm running a class with someone else right now, and we're both really clear. You will show up unless you're sick. Like there's certain things we're committed to doing, but there's a lot of freedom around that. And my friend Monique wouldn't mind me sharing, I'm sure. She was here visiting and we had the afternoon to ourselves and we had planned to go to the Barbie movie and have a nice dinner. And I had to go into work in the morning and I had a miserable time at work.
Hmm.
Like I was like leaving frothing at the mouth. And so I realized if I came in the door and she was all excited and burbly, it was going to be too much for me. I was going to like bring some resentment and stuff in. So I pulled over halfway home and I texted her and I said, Monique, I'm so sorry. I'm going to come in the house. I'm going to go to my room. I'm not going to even say hello to you. I'm going to pout and sulk for about an hour and take a nap and hope to hopefully reset. I'm not up to the movie, but if you want to watch a blow 'em up movie where especially certain peeps, men at that moment are all blown up, I am glad to watch that with you and we can order food in. Let me know what works for you. And so she texted me back when I pulled in the driveway. There was a text, great. I'm going to go into my room until I hear you go into your room so you don't even have to deal with me. Um, I went into my room. I pouted and sulked. I took a nap. I came out and I'm like, I'm still in a grumpy mood, but I'm at least like I can be around other humans. And she's like, great. I'm so glad. We'll sit on opposite ends of the couch. Do you want to talk about it? I said, no, I just want to watch a movie where men get blown up. And she's like, do you know which one you want to watch? I said, Atomic Blonde. I want Charlize, I can't say her name, Theron to blow up all the men. She's like, I have not seen that. I would love to watch it. And we watched it. We had a great time. By then, I was over myself. We had a lovely dinner. But I was able to be honest with her. Now, she's a very resourced, resilient person. If she hadn't wanted to do any of those things, she might have said, great, I'm going to go I have friends in town or whatever. I might go out and do something on my own or whatever. But we found a really fun, I was honest. I didn't try to pretend. And in the past, I would have tried to pretend and tried to smile and tried to like act like everything was okay. I wouldn't be taking care of myself. And there would be a lot of dishonesty in the relationship. There'd be resentment and pretending in the relationship, which I think is not healthy for the kind of relationships I want to build really deeply. There are people that I interact with where I am perfectly content to pretend for the time we have to deal with each other. When I go to the DMV, I will pretend to like the person, like I'll be pleasant and nice. I can appreciate that they have to sit in those chairs all day and I'm sorry for them, but I don't have to like be real with them necessarily. But for the relationships that I want to sustain me in my life, I'm invested in the other person. I want honesty and I want to build that and it's a muscle. Like you don't necessarily start off with something what Monique and I did. We've known each other for like 12 years and we've practiced this over the years. But I could do the same with Rick. He doesn't get to come out here very often, but if we were supposed to get together, if we were hanging out and we were supposed to do something fun and one of us needed to change, I trust that we would tell the other person because we want that honesty. We want the lack, and I do sometimes tell my friends, hey, if I do this, I'm going to be resentful and I don't want that in our relationship. I want to keep our relationship healthier than that. So you can build that. Um, and I think it's just really powerful to be able to say that and have the other person totally respect and care that you're taking care of yourself. So I just wanted to share that because I like having a vision of what something might look like. I hope I don't have many days like that. That was a very miserable morning. I did not enjoy it, but I love that I had a friend here that could kind of go with that change, and I didn't have to pretend. I could be clear what I needed. I could be objective about what I wanted. So
I'd like to ask the group something, if I could. So Kathy just shared that she pulled over and she texted somebody that was looking forward to a particular experience. And she's saying, that ain't going to happen. Now, if you try that on, how does it feel to you? Taking care of yourself, communicating what your needs are, where you are, um, and giving someone else that kind of clear communication. If you want to share, you can do so in the chat. Um,
And you're welcome to also raise your hand if you'd like.
sure. If you don't mind being on video on the recording, you're welcome to raise your hand. The I I believe that when we one of the things we want to do in these workshops is to share, like, where do you get to if you've had a relationship for 12 years that has been one where you've tried out different levels of um, boldness, clarity, communication, and the like. Um, I think for me, when I was starting out with that, as I put myself back in that place, there was the uncomfortableness of getting a reaction back, which uh, I wasn't necessarily resilient enough at the time. And so if you're stopped at all from having that kind of bold communication, it's you're still right here, right now, developing this skill because you can at least be with it. Like, I'm aware that I am not ready for the plans that we have set, but I'm also not feeling resilient to the disappointment. I actually feel more resilient showing up and pretending that I'm okay, continuing the plans. For those of us that coped a lot, are we may be really strong at coping. And you know, she little finger when it comes to you know, I need to take care of myself today. I feel depleted and or in a place where I need to reset. And so I need to change our plans, even though I'm disappointed too.
Yeah.
So the hand raise, would you like to?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, this is something that is not frail towards others. I'm really letting them down. And this summer, I had an opportunity to really practice it with my coaching business. And where we had a situation with my dog that got attacked, and I needed to change plans just like that. And I found myself still wanting to try to make it work, to meet with people. And I ended up meeting with one person, and it really, really, really reinforced to me how I, in when I have another opportunity, that I really need to pay attention because I wasn't able to be there, be present for the other person in a way that I hold myself to. And I needed to, the next time I met with that client, I acknowledged where I had been and how difficult it had been also for me to say, hey, I'm not really available.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. I think it's a level of honesty that's hard to reach. A lot of times we think we can do it all. We're kind of taught that we should. And I think there's a lot of just telling the client, like, I know that there's, or a friend, I know that you were looking forward to this. You were planning on this, and I'm so I think saying, I'm sorry, I get that this could be disappointing for you. But there are times like if when my cat was sick, I have to cancel if I have to take her to the vet. She's my priority. I will reschedule with someone, but if my cat is in a life threatening issue, I'm going to take her to the vet. So I can honor that. And um, yeah, I think it's a practice that we build. As we get older, maybe, and we clear old traumas out, maybe we can see it better. But I love that you were able to see that and acknowledge that for yourself rather than just beating yourself up for not being Superwoman.
Mhm. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah, a couple other people's sharing too. Um, that someone shared that they didn't have a handful of people they can do that with, but there's room for improvement. Um, and people that have a lot of they feel obligated to, it's harder, if not impossible, to do that. And I think 12 years ago, I mean, I did have a headache. I was having a really rough day. I think I would have said, hey, I have a really bad headache. I can't make it, versus just sharing what I needed. And that I love the fact that because I could share more nuances with this person that I trusted, we were able to salvage, I spent that 1 hour in my room, but we were able to salvage a really fun out. The rest of the day was pretty fun. Um,
I'd like to do a tapping there around obligated
yeah.
and whether we feel free to take the space that we need. Um, and also just to introduce um, have you noticed in your life that your body may be supporting you and giving you the right distance through something like a headache or through something else that feels like, oh, well, that actually is a good excuse, meaning, or an excuse that I feel and maybe they feel is acceptable.
Yeah.
Um, it's really uncomfortable. I've done a lot of tapping on this, and it still remains uncomfortable to realize how much, in order to be excused from things that I really needed more distance from, a headache, a crushing headache, one that where people looked at your face and they go, wow, you must have a really bad headache. Um, I I really latched onto that. And in school, like if I was sick to my stomach, um, I got out of school. No wonder I learned to have digestive problems when I was in a situation. So this is part of tying in, right? You know, giving ourselves space. And this is, please feel free to adapt the words. That's one of the beautiful things about tapping. You'll notice I do that to model it with Kathy. I love the way that she taps and I change the words with what's coming up for me. Even though some people want me to be obligated,
Even though some people want me to be obligated,
even though they might not admit it.
even though they might not admit it.
And some people I do feel obligated to.
And some people I do feel obligated to.
And some people just make such a stink.
Some people just make such a stink.
How do I get right distance?
How do I get right distance?
Top of that. Well, Rick used to give himself headaches.
Well, Rick used to give himself headaches.
I would never do that.
I would never do that.
Eyebrow. How do I give myself permission?
How do I give myself permission?
Side of the eye. How do I give myself permission?
How do I give myself permission?
Under the eye. How bad does it have to be?
How bad does it have to be?
Under the nose. For me to take a step back
For me to take a step back.
or an hour off.
Or an hour off.
Sometimes it's hard to give myself permission
Sometimes it is hard to give myself permission
to take that step back.
to take that step back.
And I want that to be clearer and more confident.
And I want that to be clearer and more confident.
That they are going to have their feelings.
They are going to have their feelings.
They may even have objections.
They may even have objections.
But I want to be close enough to my truth to know what's right for me.
But I want to be close enough to my truth to know what's right for me. And I just want to clarify one thing Rick said, because we're really in alignment in it, but it could be taken out of context. People, their bodies hurt sometimes. We're not saying that people are
Absolutely.
making themselves not feel well. Um, and our body will often respond to our needs. And if we can't vocalize our needs or set verbal boundaries, it will come out some other way. So I just want to make sure, like, I love that you said give myself a headache, because I think emotionally we would create that, but it's not that people are at fault for getting headaches or anything like that.
No, I
So
still get headaches from exercise, from pleasures. I might go dancing and my neck is like, ah. Um,
from a deer screaming.
and that, and part of our role and vulnerability is to recognize that, I did have a headache. I wasn't faking it. And it wasn't the only, like the built up kind of being too close. It's a bit like I'm too close to a fire, initially I'm uncomfortable and then I'm hot. And then my skin may actually literally be damaged um, in a way that I might have a flush for a day or two after if I don't give myself the right distance. And of course, there is actual harm if you get too close to a fire. Um, Emotionally, I've just noticed the same thing in me that if I don't feel like I can move that step away or give myself space or get to a cooler energy or a warmer energy, um, that that impacts my physio emotional body. I have a physio emotional body. And like we're as sensitive people, if I'm aware of when I might not feel free to say something, there's a beautiful thing. Like I noticed one time after I tapped on, even though I just do not feel free to say what's up here. So I'm gonna go along or I'm gonna lie. Um, I it took my empathy by accepting my own limits. I started noticing someone would be uncomfortable or they would be lying or they would um, be pretending. And a part of me picked up on that was happening, but I didn't have good differentiation. It felt like, oh, it must be me. It must be my fault. I'm doing something wrong.
Mhm.
When in a thriving relationship, there are edges where, it might be just way too vulnerable right now for someone to say, you know, I I can't be with you because my animal's dying. Because just to say that, they might break down and cry, and they're not ready to cry. They've been crying. This is their moment when they're not. Whatever the reason, I'm going to pick up on the fact that there's something that's not being shared. I know that I do that too. And I've sat with the discomfort of that and the understanding. I can be like, okay, that's part of looking at the emotional evidence. Say, hey, there may be a safety thing going on here between me and this person. And there might be a time I would love for there to be a time I'm going to be attuning myself to making it easier and easier for them to say no or share what's true for them.
Well, in building
Um,
muscles, I love the
yeah,
analogy that you
like
gave.
you, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I love the analogy of it being too close to the fire, because most of us, if we're hanging out with friends around the fire and when we're too close, we're actually feeling like our skin's getting burned. We don't have a problem saying, "Whoa, I need to back away from the fire." And if we're so far back that we're, cold winter night, we're really cold, we can feel frostbite coming in. We're like, there's actually something physically going on. I can ask for a blanket or I can ask it close to the fire. I think emotionally, a lot of us have learned to tune that out. Energetically, we tune it out. We don't make it important. And it is actually as important as being burned by a fire or being left out in the cold. Doesn't mean the other person is obligated to give that to us, but we can ask for it, and we can find people where that's a good fit. And if we're too close, we can say, hey, I do get to protect myself just as much as if I was getting blisters on a fire.
You often do pre-frames with me. You're exceptional at it. I try to be good at it. Like, hey, if it's not a yes for you, please know that I'm fine or I'm okay. And in situations where I'm picking up that there might be a lack of, they may not feel the safety that actually exists. I might say something like, yeah, I was checking in about us, going and doing this together. And just to be clear, I'm looking forward to spending time with you. And if it's not a real strong yes for you for whatever reason, I am totally okay. And I'm interested in rescheduling if that's what's true for you. That was a lot of words.
No, I think it's
And sometimes they come out as a lot of words. I have done this with some people that have never ever had somebody in their life that made it easy for them to feel into what is right for them. I remember someone said, "Thanks. I'm just so tired." I said, "Yeah, yeah, let's reschedule." And a week later, they said, that was the first time I had downtime in months, and I just took care of myself. I got some tea, I got a warm blanket, I just sat and read a nice book of poetry. Thank you for making it so easy for me to love myself and love our relationship by doing that. That's the we space part of this.
I think that's so. I love telling Rick, hey, it's like, I'm fine if you're no. I also sometimes say, I really could use to talk. So, like, if you have it in you, I could, and I have another friend I've actually gotten, so I'll text him and I'll say, it's a 3 out of 10. If you have time to talk, I'd love to. Or it's like an 8 out of 10. I really or 10 out of 10, I'm melting down. If you're not on fire, can you please call me? He still can say no. He has
Yeah.
that right. And I'm giving him some context to know how important it is. And I think that's useful too. When I was talking to Monique, I think my words made it clear. This is a 10 out of 10. We're not doing this. And there's other times when I might say we have this theory that my couch is a black hole because we'll get on there. We're watching some new series or something. And we're going to watch one and then we're going to go get some work done. And we're kind of looking at each other like, I kind of can watch another episode if you want to. And, it's like, we could get up and do work, but we're both like, yeah, let's watch another one. So it's, and I think that is useful, and it's nice to let people know how much people that are invested, they want to know. And there's times when Rick's really needed to talk, or I know Rick's been there for me when I really needed to talk, when it wasn't really aligned for him. And sometimes that's okay. We get to do that. We get to choose that. I want it to be a conscious choice that we're opting into and not resenting the other person because we feel obligated or because we feel forced.
We're going to take our break here, but I wanted to share. Someone said it feels freeing to just be myself and let others know my needs. My family and I had a conversation before we went on vacation together about each one of us getting our needs met during the vacation. We all had a wonderful time together and apart. People were able to slow down, rest, and go on adventures on their own or together. It was wonderful. Thank you. The And notice
Nice
the
and
together and
yeah.
apart,
Yeah.
needs met. My needs match your needs. My needs allow for you to get your particular needs met for solitude or adventure or synchronicities or whatever that comes that way.
That's a
And
beautiful flow, and that will bring us into the next point when we come back.
yeah. So we're going to take a 7-minute break and then we'll be back. If there's something that's, you just feel it and it's ready, please put it in the chat. we'd love for that to help guide and inform the last part of the workshop.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Yes. So I think we've already kind of touched on this one in when we're talking about the being objective, but one of the is okay to dive in, Rick? Are you?
Yep.
Um, being with the flow of things, like Rick was talking about inhaling and exhaling. I love the example the person gave in the chat about like being on a vacation. One of the nicest vacations I have ever had is where we had a shared suite, and they would say, I'd love to go to dinner at this time. I'm gonna be off doing my thing this afternoon. And if you want to meet me for dinner, great. If not, just let me know. And we just kind of, there was inhale and exhale. There was time to take a nap. There was time to do stuff together. There was time to do stuff apart. And I think that for a lot of people, people with trauma often have attachment issues. It doesn't mean that they're bad or wrong. It's just, it's part of what happened as they were growing up, where they're either anxiously attached, meaning they're trying to hold on all the time, which, like just trying to hold their breath maybe. And there's people that are really afraid to get close. They're avoidant, so that they've learned that it's dangerous to be too close to people. So like basically exhaling all the time. And there's people that are, they call it disorganized attachment, where they have a little bit of both of those, where they're like trying to inhale and exhale at the same time, maybe like they're pulling and pushing at the same time. And then there's secure attachment, where it's like, oh, I know that for my system, my body, my brain, know that you're probably going to show up for me most of the time. There's going to be times when you won't be there, but I feel secure about our attachment. So it can be really hard to have that to go with the flow when we have attachment issues. And as we clear traumas, we can clear out, we do tapping, whatever it is, whatever work we do, we start releasing those attachment issues. We start finding people, the more we cultivate people who are safe to be around, the more we teach our body that there are people that are secure, that people are going to stay around for us and not smother us. So that it lets us go with the flow more. So I share that because I want people to not shame themselves if they don't go with the flow. I used to never go with the flow. I had a script for how everything was going to go because I was so freaking scared. I needed everything like written out, and we had to do it the order I said and the time we said, and I was going to get really unhappy if we didn't. And as I've healed more, it's been a lot more easy to go, I know we said we're going to go see the Barbie movie. I am not up to the Barbie movie. Or maybe you're not up to the Barbie movie. Is there a place we want to dance together, or do we want to just have an exhale for a moment and then we can inhale later? And like, as opposed to taking it as one time we didn't get we didn't do what we said, it's the end of the relationship. It's obviously proof that everything is falling apart. So being with that flow, not having a script, I think is really powerful.
Now I'm going to add something really woo-woo. You can be giving each other solitude and distance physically, and you're actually on an energetic level, you're getting really deep and close about what you value. Like, I value my solitude. My partner values her solitude. And so even if I want like physical closeness, if that's not the yes, there can be like, oh, the respect for each other's needs individually and together. There can be in the realm of, not in the primitive brain, but in the hardestry of relating, in the savvy of relating deeply and engaging with people deeply, there can be concurrently a I'm respecting the divine filtering that's taking us in different directions. So that can be a closeness to the very personal. Yes, this is my value. Can also be a closeness if it's a shared value that um, we may find ourselves going in different directions, but that doesn't make us broken up or enemies. It may be that the only place that we relate anymore is in the the deep respect that we have for one another. This was really helpful in recalibrating my sense of resilience that because I don't actually completely, utterly say goodbye and disconnect from anyone that mattered to me closely. So if someone is in that inner circle at any point, I they were there and we meant something for each other and with each other. There was a dance there. And even if it ended in some chaos or exit velocity, there's a part of my being. Not everyone shows this, but it's definitely a part of my being. And I think it's part of, from what I see, a lot of the people in our community of like, I want to hold a good space for them, a level of respect. Um, it may include a boundary which says, I love you, but I cannot be at all in connection with you in text, video, or anything else. I do not like that is a possibility for right distance, right depth, is to hold no desire for them to be blown up. Um, and again, like on the vibrational scale, revenge thoughts are up from despair. Um, we've taught that. But it's for me where I want to land with my own self is a place of nonviolence and at least safety and respect. That may include the fit. Like we do not fit anymore. When our energy comes together now, instead of being like two magnets that attract, we are boing, like, big magnets, electromagnets trying to force themselves together. Um, Being able to cultivate a flexibility like that. And then also feeling at the same time when openness comes, like there are people that I don't know if I'll ever communicate with them or spend time in physical presence or dance with them again. And yet they'll come into my awareness. And the right distance is to be like, hello. Hi. Yeah, enjoyed our dance, which reminds me, I'm wanting that. I'm wanting depth in a dance with somebody. Oftentimes, when I've noticed in myself that if I can be more resilient, then these things that come from the past and things that come from connections with others, they can remind me of what's really a deep need for me now, something that I have a craving for. When when I was trying to survive, my needs were about survival. Like I need to get my needs met. That was my need. um, when you're okay, and on the other side of that, like, yeah, things are actually good, then they're not depleted, they're sufficient. What now? That there's going to be um, a different kind, I've noticed a different kind of awakening in me that that feels more like the invitation, the craving, not from desperation, but from growth. Like I believe that a healthy plant or tree um, reaches, and I don't want to go there. Yeah, flowers, um, relationships. Um, yeah,
Um, well, I like the reaching. Um, so, would it be okay if we just did a little tapping on the flow? Because I think it is hard
yeah.
to step into that, especially if we have some fear base and fear in us. It's hard to dance with someone relaxed when we're tense from tightness, fear,
Uh-huh.
karate chop. Even though I'd really like to be more in the flow,
Even though I really would like to be more in the flow,
I'd like to not mind when they want to go away.
I'd like to not mind when they want to go away.
And I'd love to feel relaxed when they want to get closer.
I'd love to feel relaxed when they want to get closer.
I am where I am right now.
I am where I am right now.
And I honor that I might have different needs in this moment.
And I honor that I may have different needs in this moment?
Top of the head, what if I just acknowledge them?
What if I just acknowledge them? Hmm.
Eyebrow, I can let myself notice that I'm a little afraid and I want reassurance.
I can notice that I'm a little afraid and want some reassurance.
Side of the eye, with the right person, I can even ask for reassurance.
With the right person, I can even ask for reassurance.
Under the eye, I notice I'm a little tense when I think about you leaving.
I notice I'm a little tense when I think about you leaving.
Under the nose, I'm worrying myself that she won't want to come back.
I'm worrying myself that you won't want to come back.
Chin, could you let me know if that's true?
Could you let me know if that's true?
Collarbone, oh, it feels good to even vocalize what I'm actually feeling.
It feels good to vocalize what I'm actually feeling.
Under the arm, oh, wait, you want to get closer?
Oh, wait. You want to get closer?
Top of the head, I'm noticing it's a little hard to breathe right now.
I notice it's a little hard to breathe right now.
Eyebrow, I'd like to share with you that I feel a little afraid at the thought of you getting a little closer.
I'd like to share with you, I feel a little afraid at the thought of you getting closer.
Side of the eye, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it.
It does not mean that there's anything wrong with it.
Under the eye, but my nervous system is feeling a little afraid.
My nervous system is feeling a little afraid.
Under the nose, could we try it for 30 seconds and then step back?
Could we try it for 30 seconds and then take a pause?
Chin, then I could tune in and see what's right for me.
And then I can tune in and see what's right for me.
Collarbone, I'm noticing how relaxed my body feels right now.
I notice how relaxed my body feels right now.
Under the arm, I want to appreciate you for being in the flow.
I want to appreciate you for being in the flow
Top of the head, and honoring my different needs.
and honoring my different needs.
And I want to appreciate myself for the same things.
And I want to appreciate myself for the same things.
Just take a breath. I know that sounds really weird. And the more I practice that, it's not telling the other person they're too close. It's not telling them they did anything wrong or that they're leaving. We often do that humans do that as a defense mechanism. You're going to leave me. This is the end. And the person's like, ah. Versus I'm noticing I'm feeling a little tense and I'm worrying myself about this. It leaves a lot more space for people to talk rather than telling them about themselves or telling them about the relationship. You're telling them about what the thing that you actually can experience and know as yourself, and then inviting what you think will help. You're okay. I honor that you want to have some time for yourself, and I'm noticing that I'm feeling a little worried about this. Could you verbally reassure me, or would you give me a hug, or could you text me tonight just to let me know that you still care about me? Asking for what we want, giving the other person the space to say yes or no. The flow does not mean that we're just all happy and go lucky with everything that happens. It means we can speak about what's actually happening and request for what we need in that flow. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess what I'm feeling right now in my body is the the cast of characters that I would have loved to have been able to say that would have been dismissive, even bullying, maybe.
I would have never said that growing up. I would not have been safe.
I and knowing how dear it is to me that um,
I'm not suggesting people say that to just anybody, but the right people, that can be really beautiful to say too.
they're part of the emotional freedom journey, I believe, for all of us is to understand like what our trauma does to us, how we like to cope, what are the things that are helpful and useful for me. Um, and Kathy, I remember early on, like one of the ways that tapping helped me is that you would ask for reassurance, and my knee jerk reaction is, well, what am I doing wrong that she doesn't feel secure with me? And this part of right distance, right depth, I want to, as an empathetic person, I I want to allow someone their own reactions without it necessarily being about me. Um, I'll say that that's that's such a healthy right distance, right depth, is that when someone is talking about themselves, like I could really use reassurance. I'm feeling angry right now. That I know that I am too close if I think that that statement, as neutral as it is all about me. I might have been the trigger, I might be the influence, I might be sharing the we space with them. But if I take a half a step or 3 paces back from it and allow them to have their reaction, especially if it feels like a reaction, insecurity, the need for reassurance. I have a very high need for reassurance. Thank goodness I have spirit buddies that are I can ask for reassurance, and a few people like Kathy and others that I can say, hey, um, I want to live in a world where if somebody would benefit from reassurance, that they would ask for that in the same way that if I was sitting there with a gallon of water and they were really thirsty, parched, like their kidneys are struggling, they would say, I'm really thirsty. Do you have any water to spare? Um, and I'd be like, yeah, a gallon. How much would you like? Like, I actually have a lot of reassurance to offer if I'm at the right distance, right depth with that. Um, and we get to then, to me, that's part of going deeper. And it's not everyone is safe for this. And people that are chronically in reactivity and defensiveness and other things are not my chosen people to practice with. But if there are people that co-regulate well with me, and I think this is one of the things that um, I look for in terms of right distance, right depth. I know that I I benefit. My needs are met well if the closer I get to someone, the more regulated we help each other be. If I'm moving closer to someone and they feel less and less regulated, not, and again, this can be dynamic. I have a almost 3-year-old. Sometimes she really wants me close. Sometimes, way, like
Don't even look at her.
don't go away, and like if I'm on the other side of the house, it's a little too close. So it's not it you can have somebody that most of the time it's really regulating, or often it's really regulating. And that co-regulation to me is a signal that there's an opportunity. Doesn't mean that it's going to work out, but the capacity, if I share something and I feel myself regulate and they share something and I feel myself helping them regulate and me regulating and feeling understood, that vibe of co-regulation, um, there's an opportunity there to explore, like, hey, are you the type of person that likes to reassure your friends how much you appreciate them and what you're noticing and things like that? Actually, no, I'm not. I'm just not wired that way. Oh, great, thanks. That helps me navigate. Um, and if you ask me that when I'm regulated, it's like, yeah, I notice a lot about you that I appreciate, that I would be delighted an opportunity to reflect it back, especially when it would be helpful to you. One, just just ask, hey, what do you appreciate me for today? And so that's I hope that's helpful.
No, I think it's great. And my family of origin, you could not, sharing that I feel vulnerable or I'm worrying myself would be like painting a big bullseye on myself and saying, please poke here. It's going to hurt a lot. If you're hanging out with people like that now, I invite you to do some extra tapping, show up at group calls, whatever, bring it forward. Because as you clear that, like we often look for, we're taught what to look for in terms of relationships when we're little. If we had dysfunctional parents, or if, like we're some toxic stuff in our upbringing, It's really natural to want to look for that. But there are a lot of people. It was hard for me. I didn't understand why Rick wanted to be my friend and not poke at me or not cause pain. I didn't. I'm like, when we first became friends, like 16 years ago, I was like, what do you want? Why are you doing this? What's the long game? And it took a while to relax into it. And now I'm able to have, more friends where I can say, hey, I'm feeling worried about this. Do you have the bandwidth to reassure me? So like choose who you do this with. I think that someone wrote in the chat that they used to, I'm a pretty friendly person, used to really enjoy making friends. For about a year now, she's stopped herself, or they've stopped themselves from making friends because I suddenly dropped the ball because I started feeling panicky, and then it takes a long time to and energy to communicate. I think what you wrote right here for the right people, just sending it to them and saying, hey, listen, I notice I'm having some stuff coming up around relationships. And so when I want to reply to you, I'm feeling really panicky. And I just want to let you know that I care about you. And I'm having trouble communicating by text right now, or I'm having trouble communicating. And then bring this to a group call where you tap on, why do you think you're feeling panicky about connecting to people? You dig down a little, because a lot of people are like, okay, I'm feeling panicky. I'm having trouble identifying what's going on. Rick is amazing at kind of like, what's the story behind this? What are the thoughts? What is it that's actually stopping you? And then if you could do some tapping and clear it, that might help you move forward with it. There might be something there, some belief or thought that you have as you start texting. And I know post COVID, for a lot of people, it's been harder to connect. But, and I'm not someone who really wants to connect deeply by text. You would send me, 10 minutes late, whatever. I love that for text. Please don't send me a really long text and expect me to connect and reply that way. Email, sure. Phone call, yes. So it may not be your way of doing it as well. So, but it sounds like because of the panicky thing, I'd really encourage you to like bring that to a call where you can dig a little deeper with Rick at one of the group calls.
And there was a request for some suggestions. So to when I'm going to communicate something, um, there's a quality of sharing, getting closer, um, revealing, whatever it is. If I don't know what is stopping me, um, what I do is I start tapping the side of the hand point, and I'll say, I refuse.
I refuse.
I ain't gonna.
I ain't gonna.
You can't make me,
You can't make me.
but I want to,
But I want to.
and I'm stopped,
And I'm stopped.
and it's okay.
And it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I just need a pause here.
I just need to pause here.
I can tell when I'm forcing myself.
I can tell when I'm forcing myself.
It takes 20 minutes to write 2 sentences.
It takes 20 minutes to write 2 sentences.
Pretty sure I'm forcing myself.
I'm pretty sure I'm forcing myself.
What if I took a pause and a step back?
What if I took a pause and stepped back?
Find some right distance for a moment.
Find some right distance for a moment.
And literally, like, if your phone's always with you and you're trying to write something, take it and roll your chair back and like tap from this distance, like there's something here.
There's something here.
It's really uncomfortable.
Ooh.
Am I? And then you can look at the landscape, and with right distance, right depth, do I have a craving to get closer to this person? Maybe that I don't feel I'm not confident or sure I'm taking a vulnerable step, um, or my maybe that I'm wanting to create some distance. Maybe I've got this craving and I don't want to lay it on them. So I want to tend to my own craving for connection myself in my own writing to myself. Um, I have at times there was a period of time where I didn't write a newsletter for like 3 weeks. And every time I sat down to type, like I would write a sentence, I'd delete it. I'd write 3 paragraphs, I'd delete it. I would accidentally forget to click save and leave the document. Like, what? And that's where I believe that tapping as a tool of just being with it, like staring at the text and noticing what's coming up, what's the flood, where is your body not moving? Like if you stop breathing when you think about it's hard to write clearly when you're not breathing. That was one of like I am I'm actually not breathing and writing. I think those go really well together. There's
Breathing,
something,
writing.
and that's all I knew. Like I didn't actually understand what it was until what I really wanted was to go deeper. And I needed to get to a place where I was going to be okay being more vulnerable, being um, uh, more real about what was going on in my life at that time. And even years later, I can feel the wisdom that we, I was with the evidence. I haven't written anything that's evidence, very uncomfortable, lots of judgment. That started, can't believe it. I know how to write. What's going on here? Blah, blah, blah. That's noise, but it's noise. You tap on that for a few minutes or a round or two, and now maybe the noise is a little quieter, and you can continue to feel into it. Do I need to pause? Yes. Do I want to move closer? Actually, no. I want to move further away. Um, is there a red flag here that I'm ignoring? Is there a longing that's not getting met? Those are the things that we look at. And it's not analytical to me. Could be. The questions are helpful. I love the questions that I asking ourselves any question often opens the door, because if it's not that, it'll be like, no, it's not that. They remind you of him. Oh, okay. That's why I'm really reluctant to reach out to that person. They remind me of my brother who was always on LSD. That doesn't feel safe to me. Hot flashes, deal with the process, and then look at whether that was a guidance. Like, oh, there's a vibe here. There's a vibe of that I was overlooking, or they actually aren't all that much like that brother. I have 6 brothers, so it's anonymity through volume. Um, and
I think it is.
then we have about 3 minutes.
It's challenging sometimes to know if someone is like, is this a guidance to go away from someone, or is this someone that just has my survival brain is being reactive because this person seems a little bit like this person. And
Yeah.
it's okay to just breathe with it and go, okay, I get to decide if I go away from them, the universe will bring them back around if they're the right person, or I can try them out, like walk in slowly, listening to myself. What you need and want is very important. And I think that's one of the things that most people are missing. We're not taught to listen to what we need and want out of a relationship. And it's also important that we respect other people, what they need and want as well. The dance is, hope someone may lead sometimes, but hopefully we're all leading some of the time and we're getting what we need. And so
Mhm.
we're going to step on each other's toes sometimes. It's not going to be perfect. And I think that the fact that you went through these exercises, did the tapping with us, made some of this a little more conscious. It will give you a lot of skill and tools to be a savvy relater, to be like, oh, I understand what's happening, so I can take action that's likely to steer this in a direction that will be good for the relationship if I want it to be, or to step back if that's right for me. So I'm really delighted. I'm a geek. I love studying this stuff and figuring out ways to to be more conscious about what I'm doing. And I just really am honored to have spent the last hour and a half with you and with Rick for digging into this. I hope it
Mhm.
serves you.
I invite you to think about somebody that you could just share the concept: right distance, right depth. Right distance, right depth. Maybe there's someone that's going through a time where there's a little chaos, and just this notion, right distance, right depth, is very different from we're together or we're apart. That's the kind of binary of the primitive brain. And thriving exists um, with a recognition of the primitive brain and its sensors and usefulness and sometimes overreactivity. Um, but a deeper awareness inside of ourselves. Um, Sometimes the call for right depth is deeper into what matters to us. We did all those call series on Be What Matters, um, and from that place, seeing what's right for us. If you've noticed that your calling inside of the callings inside of yourself from the time of the pandemic or social changes, family changes, I'm not aware of anyone that didn't have certain things that have happened and changed as a part of that. Um, it is often a case where we are paused, whether we like it or not, um, until we get clarity about what really matters, so that we can move with in that dynamic flow and flexible resilience with those people that are a match for the types of things that we're wanting to engage around, the savvy engaging.
Mhm.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you
Yeah.
all.
Thanks, everyone.
Your feedback matters to us as we go forward with this. We have more workshops planned on this. And if there's something you'd like to share that's a little bit more on the private side, support at thrivingnow.com goes to just Kathy and me. If you want to post in our community center, thrivingnow.center, where the replay is posted, feel free to do that, or on our YouTube channel, where the recording will be posted as well. Thank you. Thank you all.
Great night, everyone.